The price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I am your host, Afro Elite. Before we get started, please make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on any future content. Also, leave a thumbs up or a like, whatever you like to call it. And share this on your various social media platforms because that really helps the reach and growth of the channel. Now, we're trying to reach 6K, over 6K, really, before the end of the month. So we're at the beginning. We're literally 3 days into the month. We're kind of close to halfway there, to be honest. So we're doing pretty well so far. Let me give a shout out to people in the room. We have our sister Q2Ys in here. We have our auntie, Sean from the Shy, in here. Oh, you're not going to be here long, but I appreciate you joining. Our brother Cyber Dime, War with us, Iron Will. Now, I want to say I like to be on time, and I know you guys are very understanding and graceful, but I want to apologize for being late. I had something go on, so I couldn't make it on time. I couldn't be on time. That's the reason. But I really wanted to get this subject down. I was honestly going to talk about the election in Chicago, you know, the mayor election in Chicago that's going on between Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis. But I thought that this subject was more important for us to discuss. Okay. Our brother Torian Rain is in the building. B1 to our brother Torian Rain. He's been making a lot of good content, especially on this subject that he refers to as T Hall. So you guys definitely want to go check his channel out because he's using a lot of, you know, different videos and stuff like that from TikTok and stuff to really show how bad this issue is. So y'all go check his channel out. We have Royal Me in here, Judah Queen in here, Hidden FBA. Okay, we have some people in here and we ain't even really 5 minutes in. But let me not keep you all waiting. Let me pull up this article. Actually, hold on. Let me scroll all the way up. So, as we know, there was a mass shooting in Nashville, Tennessee, where 6 people were fatally shot. 3 people were teachers, and 3 people were children. The first thing I want to say before we get into it is my condolences to the family. Okay, especially the children. It's not right how that happens to children, how children become victims because of somebody else's mental disorder. So I want to say I'm not like other people using this tragedy for political gain. First off, I don't know who these people are. I don't know if the names have been released yet. I saw one thing that they did, but maybe they're keeping the names kind of secret. I haven't seen too much of that. But it's just a tragedy. That's the first thing I want to say. And my condolences, because a lot of people understand that stuff like this happens to the kids, and it's really bad for the people who passed away and the family who passed away. This is also really bad. Let me like minimize this for a second. Situations like this is also life-changing for everybody who did survive this. For everybody who might have been shot, might have been injured, or just might have been traumatized. That trauma is not like it's going to go away. It's not like they're going to go to sleep and recognize that, oh, you know, it's not that big of a deal anymore. That happened years ago. That trauma, especially if they don't get help, will forever be an issue that person has to deal with, especially if that's a kid. And she went to a small little school, okay? It's not like this is even a high school, which is not saying there's any better if it was, but I'm saying for the trauma aspect of it. You know, kids have a very hard time processing trauma in a correct way. So my condolences to that. And then I don't want to say my condolences, but I feel sorry and sympathy for everybody who has to go through that type of trauma, because nobody should have to go through that. But I'm glad I said that. So now we can get on to the story. All right, let me pull it up here. Where is it? Hold on. I just had it. Okay. There it is. Where? Hold on. It keeps saying it's up on the screen. Okay, hold on. I got a couple tabs open, so that's okay. I don't know. This is why I was another reason I was a little late, because I was having some computer issues. Don't save. Okay. Oh my God. Y'all bear with me. Y'all, meanwhile, while we pulling this up, y'all can make sure y'all like the video. Where is? I just had this though. Hold on for a second. So there it is at the bottom. Okay, here we go. Now I'm not gonna play this, but this is just I guess the police chief giving his, condolences and talking about the situation so far. I'm gonna read into this, and this has a bit of the manifesto. If you guys didn't know, the killer's name is Audrey Hale, and the killer had a manifesto. So is going to explain a little bit of that right now. Now it says moments. Let me put my phone on. Moments before Audrey Hale entered the Covenant School in Nashville and killed 6 people, including 3 children, the former Covenant student sent Instagram messages to a former middle school basketball teammate. Quote, "I'm planning to die today." Now, this actually goes into what a lot of these killers think when they commit these acts. Most of these people, this is like a suicide mission to a lot of them. Most of them anticipate dying. Most of them do. Most of them anticipate either the police will take me out or I'm going to take myself out. Most of them, yeah, that's what most of them plan on doing. A lot of them, you see that in their manifestos at least. Now, they might change their mind last minute, but in their manifesto, they talk about how, oh, I'm planning on sacrificing myself or whatnot. So this is what she was talking about. And I'm saying she, I don't care what the pronouns was. She is, I'm not going to respect the pronouns of a damn serial killer. But I'm planning to die today. Hal wrote to, this is the name of the person. It's very difficult to pronounce. Evrianan Patton, a fellow member of the 2008-2009 Aisha T. Cresswell Middle School girls basketball team. Quote, "You'll probably hear about me on the news after I die," which coincidentally has happened. Hale, who the police said was transgender and recently began using male pronouns, seemed to cherish the time playing middle school basketball at the Nashville Arts Magnet School. A shy girl at the time, Hale's more athletic teammates said they embraced Hale and tried to make her feel like a part of their hardwood family. Hale is now the 3rd member of the team to die in the past 8 months. All were younger than 30. Okay. Hale never seemed to forget the kindness extended by those teammates, but Hale's focus on the team. Now, this is very interesting how they're framing this. Notice when black people do anything, and I'm sorry I'm stopping so frequently, but notice when black people do anything at all that's criminal, especially if they take somebody's life away from them, notice that there is no form of sympathy. Notice that they don't talk about, oh, she was so glad to be a part of the football team. It's crazy how he became a drug dealer. Notice that they're not doing that. Notice how when they're non-black, especially when they're white, it's always some good-hearted, shy person who just who was pushed to the dark side. It's this was an innocent person in the beginning, but just the terrible tragedy of their life forced them into this dark side where they committed this heinous act. And to be honest, we should feel sympathy for everybody. Notice how they frame it like that when they're a white person. Okay, so I want you guys to understand, despite the fact that this is a trans person and this is you know, a white person who killed people, they are still giving her white privilege. This is still white privilege right here that they're giving her right now. Hold on. So where was I? Okay, I'm gonna just start all over again. Hale never seemed to forget the kindness extended by those teammates, but Hale's focus on the team and former teammates resulted in an awkward and strange interaction with those teammates in recent years. One teammate described Hale's um, preoccupation with her and the team as obsessive and stalkerish. Two of Hale's former teammates were recently killed in a car accident. Sydney Sims, was 27 when she died from injuries suffered in a two-car crash in Nashville in August. Marquis Lachille, yeah, man, I swear I'm getting better with name. Marquis Lachille Hamilton was 29 when she died at the scene of a crash on I-65 in Nashville in February. So this is the story that they're going with. Okay, so they read the manifesto. She's real bad. Now what they're doing is now they're talking about, yeah, and she had two of her best friends, and the two people who reached out and tried to understand her and who got to know her and called her by her pronouns. I'm surprised, like, if you can listen as you're reading this, you're playing like the violin music in your head. This is what is this called? The Tennessee.com or whatever. They're really giving, this is like a sob story. Oh, and she committed this act because her two friends coincidentally, oh, I'm not going to say coincidentally, but their two friends died in a car accident, which my condolences if they were good people. I'm not saying that those are, bad people or anything like that, or that they deserve for that to happen to them. I'm not trying to justify what happened to them, but I'm just trying to say, look at how they're already framing this story. Now, if she was black, if this was a black person, they don't go around talking about, yeah, my best friend died in a car accident 2 months before, and it just kind of drove me crazy. I was always a little awkward and shy, and I can only express my emotions to two people. And you don't get that type of sob story when they're black. When they're black, it was like, yeah, he grew up in a criminal environment and he sold drugs when he was a baby. He used to put weed in his diaper. That's what they would do. Now, scrolling down, Audrey Hale left a manifesto. On Monday, Hale became the third member of the team to die in the past year. Police shot Hale after the Newsy College of Art graduate shot 6 people, including students. Okay, they do have the name. Elvin, boy, the font is too small, and I don't. Dickus, I believe it's pronounced, 9 years old. This was a 9-year-old child. Holly Scruggs, also a 9-year-old. William Kinney, 9-year-old. She shot 3 9-year-olds, as well as the head of the school, Catherine Coons. Catherine Coons. That's interesting. 60 years old, substitute teacher. Cynthia Peak, 61, and custodian Mike Hill, 61. Okay, so she shot 3 9-year-olds and pretty much 3 6-year-olds. All right. It took us a while to really get to that part, though. You thought you lead with that, but anyway, Howe left behind a manifesto and had studied the school and its entrance points, according to the police. Howe was getting treatment for an unspecified quote emotional disorder. There's that emotional disorder stuff again, and this is why I specifically chose to read this. Okay, now when they talk about how bad Chicago is, how criminal black people are in Chicago just because we listen to rap music and it just turns us inherently criminal, do they ever talk about the mental disorders that black people go through? Anytime a black person does anything at all, do they talk about mental disorders, or do you only see the word mental disorders, or oh, he was getting treatment and therapy and PTSD? Do you only see that when they're white people? Okay. And I'm glad that is framing it like this, because we're going to have to get to the point where we have to understand. Now, I know everybody in the chat room understands, but we really got to get to the point where we understand that no matter what their pronouns are, what their sexuality is, whatever the case, their whiteness supersedes everything. This person who killed 3 children and then 3 adults is still getting treated with white privilege and kid gloves. Because to be honest, there's not too much. They kind of brush past this story very quickly. You wouldn't know that this happened last week. This literally happened last week, and the story is almost cold now. You're not seeing this at all. Then continuing. Okay, so she studied the interest report. She had getting treatment for an emotional disorder. The Metro Police Chief John Drake said, okay, the shooter's parents thought Haley had recently sold his only gun, but Hal had in fact illegally purchased several firearms from 5 different local gun shops, Drake said. Now, that's kind of interesting how you can purchase several firearms despite the fact that you have a diagnosed mental disorder. That lets you know something about them. Okay, they're just don't they do a background check and see, okay, well, you're kind of bipolar. I don't think I should sell you this AR-15. All right, anyway. Then it says, I want to go home. Okay, this is a different thing. Hal played middle school girls basketball as a shy little kid at the school where everybody made the team remembered Antoine Butchin, a former lead coach at the Crestwell who coached Hal. Butchin is now the head varsity girls basketball coach in Anshin High School at whatever. Okay. Anyway, sorry y'all. My eyes is not working right now. In Hall's 8th grade year, the team was immensely talented. The team was an immensely talented group that made it to the Final Four. And let me ask you, what does this have to do? As I'm reading the accolades of how great the basketball team was that she was a part of, what does this have to do at all? At all, what does this have to do with what she did? Okay. Now you think apparently she must have had some issue with the basketball team or something like that, because they keep bringing up, oh yeah, basketball. You know, she was playing for basketball. You know what I'm saying? And her friends died, and she was such a great player. She was a team player with it. This has literally nothing to do with the situation. In this article, okay, we've read multiple paragraphs. They were all like, yeah, and she was a shy kid. She played basketball. She had friends, and her friends passed away. Oh, yeah, she killed some people too. But let's talk about the basketball championship. They flew past the fact that she had a killer manifesto and was talking about going on a suicide mission to kill children. They flew past that like a million miles an hour. And now they're back on, yeah, okay, well, and, you know, her team was very talented. The coach was very supportive. They worked together. She was a high scorer. Do you see this? Do you see how fast they went on to the next thing? This is them humanizing the killer, which they do all the time when they're white. They don't do this when they're black at all. You don't ever hear them talk about Chicago like this at all. Not even the most quote unquote liberal news publications frame a black killer like this ever. You've never seen this. let me start over. In Hal's 8th grade year, the team was an immensely talented group that made it to the final four of the city tournament despite a um, representing a midget school for the arts. Buchachin said, whatever that person's name is. Some teammates remember Hall as being a player who gave maximum effort. The Buchachin remembered a bench warmer. Oh my God, Maximum! She was such a team player. She is so great. You know what? Man, look. Anyway, quote: She would have played if we were really winning or really losing. Oh wow, this name is very difficult for me to pronounce. It's like I pronounce it differently almost every time. Buchachin, whatever. Buchachin said. Y'all know these names be weird. Come on now. Don't be laughing at me. I know y'all are in your head. Don't do it in the chat room, please. Thank you. Okay. Patton, who called the police after receiving a final message from Hall on Monday, remembers a close-knit team. Audrey was a super timid when we first met her, said Patton, who was a year ahead of Hall in school. We had a real hold on, let me see. We had real camaraderie. We had real camaraderie as far on the court. We were like a family. Maya Phillips, 28, was on the Cresswell team with Hal and in the same grade. Quote, we felt she was shy, Phillips said, so we embraced her and really befriended her. Now, just pay attention to how they just zoom past the fact that she's a serial killer like a million miles an hour. And now, now they're on like, yeah, she was such a great friend and she gave us our lunch sometimes when she didn't want to eat and whatnot. She was very funny. She had a great sense of humor. They do not humanize any other race of killers like this whatsoever. After middle school, Phillips and Hall attended different high schools. Oh my gosh, she got separated from her best friend. Phillips went to the University School of Nashville, and Hall went to the Nashville School of the Arts. Running track at MLK High. Now, based off of the subtitle right here, do you guys think that this has anything to do with what's going on? I might not even read this entire thing, not because it's the font is. I want to make the font bigger, but I don't want to mess stuff up. My computer is kind of acting slow right now. Despite not playing much on the middle school basketball team, Hall was a part of the state championship girls 4x400 meter relay track team for Martin Luther King Jr. Oh my God, high school in 2013. Because Nashville School of Arts doesn't have a track team, students there can try out for the MLK team. And don't tie MLK's name to this. Hal was even named most athletic in the Nashville School of the Arts yearbook. At a different high school, Phillips drifted apart from Hall, but over the years, Hall would reach out to her on social media, often referencing their time together in middle school. It was almost sweet, Phillips said, but sometimes it was unnerving. Do you see how much we're scrolling down? Now, they're not talking. They zoom past the people who actually died. These innocent people who actually died. They was all like, oh yeah, their name was Willis something. 9 years old, 3 9-year-olds. Then you had their senior citizens. They probably had grandchildren and all that stuff. So that's the tragedy. Now let's get back to how great she was at basketball and how much she was the team player. There are 6 people who were murdered that day. Okay. They mentioned them for a brief second. It was a blink and you'll mention it, and now they're on to how athletic she was. You think this was like some type of coming of age story. You think this was like some type of thing where they're praising her to a degree. Notice they're not using any disparaging words. Like they use like it was a little unnerving. It became a little much. They're not using, yeah, she was creepy and stalkerish and she had weird psychopathic they're not doing none of that. Okay. When Phillips arrived at middle school Tennessee State University and set up her email for the first time, she was surprised to find that there were already an email for Hall waiting for her. Oh, that's interesting. How did she have an email waiting before she set it up? That's interesting. Phillips also occasionally received memorabilia from Hall connected to their time at Cresswell team together on the Cresswell team together. Patton had no idea how Hall knew her address. Quote, "I'm trying to be as respectful and also as honest as possible," Phillips said. It felt obsessive. It felt like stalkerish behavior. Hall's behavior never escalated to the point where Phillips felt the need to contact authorities, but recent interactions left people confused and uncomfortable, Phillips said. In February 2022, Hall came uninvited to a birthday party at these damn names at at some bar, just a bar. Okay, y'all not gonna be sitting up here making fun of me. At some bar and restaurant at Goodsville. What is up with these names? Is this a cartoon? That was attended by some of the members of the middle school team, Phillips said. Hall did not seem to be using male pronouns at the time, Phillips said. Phillips declined to name the other people at the party. Okay. So now they're sitting up there. Yeah, she was creepy and she was uninvited and she felt alone and she felt okay. Anyway, Phillips arrived after Hall and noticed her former teammates acting visibly drunk, stumbling and slurring their words. But the other people at the party said that Hall hadn't had anything to drink. Everyone believed Hall was pretending to be drunk at the party she hadn't been invited to, Phillips said. Phillips hasn't seen Hall in person for many years, she said, but remembering Hall's mother from the middle school playing days, Phillips tried to get Hall's phone so she could contact Hall's family and get Hall home safely, but Hall refused. The other people at the party weren't sure what to do for Hale. I keep saying Hale. Okay. Everybody was confused, Phillips said. It was just rumbling us in a weird way of like giving us a really negative feeling. It didn't feel right. After Hale refused all help getting home, Phillips left, but she soon started getting social media messages from Hale, begging her to come back. The messages were clear and grammatically correct. However, hardly the kind of messages sent by somebody as inebriated as Hale had been acting. Phillips saw Hale later in 2022 at a celebration of life for their former teammate, Sydney Sims. Now, if you guys remember, that's the person who died in a car accident earlier. Okay. Who died in an August car crash in Nashville. She remembers Hale following her to a car and continuing to hang out. Following her car to continue to hang out. Quote, "I was expressing to her that it would not that we were all grieving," Phillips said. Okay. In a private Instagram post from the Tennessee Sister Taylor, okay, described how she was Sister Taylor described how she was and her sister had not had any contact with Hale for years until Hale attended Sim's funeral. So this is Tim's sister, okay? But then Hale showed up uninvited to another family event. So she just don't need an invite for nothing. She just gonna show up. She is just gonna show up. She don't need an invite. Okay. So then she says, quote, she then popped up uninvited to my sister's sick SIK. I guess that's a painting that my mom held for a few weeks ago. Odd, and still didn't know how she found out. So this girl's like an FBI agent. She's finding addresses and emails and how to get there. Nobody knows. She's not invited, but she's still showing up. The former classmate at Nashville School of Arts remembered how Hale would often play basketball in the gym after school, although it does not appear she played on any team after middle school. The classmate, who declined to be named, said that Hale's senior arts show were colored pencil drawings of the girls in the basketball team. So they're saying, okay, she has some very weird obsession with her basketball team. Hale ended a final Instagram post, which Hale subsequently told Patton was a suicide note in direct message with with a series of 5 emojis, one of them a basketball. Now we're pretty much that's it. That's it. Now, I hope you guys can see that because I couldn't. I'm so close up on my desk right now. Let me get this off the screen and rest my eyes. Please make sure you guys like. Please make sure that you guys like because we're trying to get this channel to 6K. Now, I read the whole thing and I really didn't want to. I kind of wanted to get to the part where they skipped past the, the whatchamacallit, they skipped past the killing. So they talked about the manifesto very briefly. They talked about the people that she killed very briefly. And then they went on to, oh yeah, she was she was kind of weird around her friends and all that stuff. It was just this, you don't know nothing about her. Okay, despite the fact that she was a little weird and off and kind of felt lonely, they don't do that stuff when it comes to black people. Okay, now, as we know, this person was a trans individual. I want to preface this by saying I don't think, and I'm not saying that all trans people are killers, are murderers, are evil. That is not what I am saying. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. What I am saying is this person clearly had a lot of mental issues. Okay. This person went to a school. This person was trans. Now, when we talk about, when I say stuff like a lot of the people who are trans, and I'm going to be very politically correct as I can be, a lot of the people who are trans have mental problems. Okay. A lot of them go to therapy, and you can look this up. If I'm not telling the truth, you guys can find this out yourself. A lot of the people who do that have mental issues. And it's bad because in society, we're taught to, if they have mental issues, to just kind of go along with their mental issues. If they have mental issues, which can lead to these types of problems, which can enable these types of behaviors and these types of entitlements, okay, that's what this ultimately leads to. As you guys know, especially if you guys have been following me on Twitter for a while, I've been after the pronoun stuff. I've been after what I call the pronoun people. I'm the one who came up with that, the pronoun people. I'm the one who really called out the fact that notice the pattern of illogical, irrational behavior with people who tend to have, and I'm not saying every single last one, but people who tend to have pronouns in their bio. Notice how irrational they are. Notice how illogical they are. Notice all of these things, right? When society tries to enable that, when society tries to enable dysfunction and mental problems, instead of saying you need to get help, instead of saying this isn't normal, you have issues, you need to see a therapist. Okay, she's stalking. Notice she's stalking her classmates that she went to middle school with. after college. And I'm not saying you can't be close if you play the basketball team or whatever the case is. I'm not saying you can't be close. I'm close to people that I knew when I was about that age or whatnot. But it would be something very, very different if we went years with really no contact and I'm the only one reaching out and then I'm sitting up there inviting myself to their parties and their family functions. That's weird. Okay. All this mental delusion and dysfunction that she had going on that people just kind of let slide. And then it went further down the rabbit hole with the fact that now I'm a he, him, them. Okay. And when they start the problem, the fact that in society, American society today, you can't say anything that criticizes them. You can't say, okay, well, I think you really need some help. You really need to see a therapist. You're acting delusional. The fact that, and I'm not putting the blame on all of them, but the fact that they have this delusion and they're really a protected class now. They're at a protected class. So if you say that they're wrong because if they are trans, and mind you that this woman did what she did, and her being a transgender is a factor into why she did this. This is not just a happenstance thing that she happened to be trans and did this. This is a factor and a reason why she did this act. Okay? But when you have a society that teaches you that these people cannot be wrong, when you have a society that teaches you that what you need to do is you need to bend reality to make them more comfortable, to make them fit in, to give them what they want, and if they do something wrong, you really can't criticize them. And I'm going to show you that by saying that I want you to pay attention, not just to this, because that's, you can say, oh my God, that's just one article. Who knows? I want you, and shout out to Torian, I see him in here. He did a video on this not long ago. Let me show you with AOC, also known as Ocasio or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's her name. I always get it messed up. Look at what she said about the situation.
There was a man that would park on the side of the street.
Let me refresh the screen. I don't like the fact that Instagram does that. Like, you can't take the thing all the way back. You got to like refresh the screen. But anyway, listen to this. Okay. Mind you, actually, I'm going to read the caption. Now, this was right after a mass murder committed by a transgender. There is no sympathy for the family at all. And I'm going to let you listen to it, but let me read the caption real quick for you. Okay. Much of the attacks on the LGBT plus community are rather conscious or not, deflecting attention away from the actual largest source of SA. And we know what SA is. Abusive heterosexual men. So heterosexual men is the issue. Heterosexual men is the issue. Now, my thing is this. I do not condone the mistreatment of somebody because of their sexuality. I don't think that if you happen to be whatever you happen to be, I don't think that that is a justification for you to be harmed, for you to be mistreated by society. That is not okay. Whatever you do as an adult with another consenting adult, that is your business. Okay? That is your business, and you should not be harmed or subjugated because of that. But the thing that we have now is not that, because in the beginning they were talking about, oh, I just want them to be treated like I just want them to be treated normally. I just want them to be treated normally, like every random person in society. They should just be able to live life normally. And to be totally honest, most people are like, okay, cool. If they should be treated normally, they should be held accountable like everybody else is held accountable. The issue that we have nowadays is that when they do something good, productive for society, they get a bunch of the praise and everything, and give credit where credit is due. Fine. But the thing is that when they do something wrong and you say, okay, you did something wrong, then you have to face this straw man argument and this deflection about, okay, well, you can't say that, or that makes you homophobic. That is the problem that people are having today. You say on one hand, the LGBT just want to be treated like normal citizens, and I'm not saying all of them are on this type of energy. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying in the mainstream society, not every single individual, but the mainstream society behaves this way. That okay, this person who happens to be trans, and their actions is a direct factor. Them being a trans, them identifying as a trans, is a factor in why they did this. Okay. So for you to bring up the fact that, okay, well, now it's a problem. Now they're saying, oh, you can't bring up the fact that they're trans because that's going to make us look bad as trans people. That's going to make the trans community look bad. Okay, well, you can't have it to where this thing is where you hold your W's when a trans person wins an award or graduates from college or whatever. Oh, it's trans, the first trans this, the first trans that. Okay, fine. That's fair. That's, if you want to be fair, let's be fair. That's fair. Now, when y'all do something wrong, y'all should, if y'all say y'all want to be treated like everybody else in society, y'all should be held accountable the same way anybody else in society would. Now you have AOC sitting up there deflecting, because this has nothing to do with straight men at all. That person, Audrey Hale, was not a straight man, was not even a man. And this has to do with, oh, well, men are really perverts. What does this have to do with 6 people who were killed? 3 of them were 9-year-old children. What does that have to do, okay, with any of that? Before we continue, let me get a shout out to ACAB Devil for the $20 super chat, okay? Now, he says, Dwayne Wade got an award for a transgendered son faster than he got in the Hall of Fame introduction. Faster got his Hall, yeah, he did. When he is a multi-time champion. Think about that. Think about it long and hard. This couldn't be more blatant. Exactly. You got an award because your child identifies as a transgender. And you got an award for that. You got an award because your child identifies as trans. That's something to get a parent's an award. And Gabrielle Union, who is not the mother, got an award too. Now, when it comes to basketball, and it's a good point you brought up, you have to practice day in and day out. Years, win championships, win games. Okay? Practice through days where you're sick or irritated, work on all of this stuff. He had to work. Now, I'm not going to take his basketball credentials away from me. He had to work for that. But now they're saying, oh my, trans, it's just, they're making trans a protected class. A protected class. Let me get into this. Let me read the caption of this. Now, I'm going to start all the way over. For the people just coming in the room, please, y'all, make sure that you guys leave a like. Also, you can retweet this on your social media pages. Retweet this on Twitter or post it on Facebook or something like that. Tell a friend. Much of the attacks on the LGBTQ plus community are rather conscious or not, deflecting away from the actual largest source of SA, abusive heterosexual men. In its actual LGBT plus community, doing much of the work of challenging those patriarchal and oppressive norms that upheld the kinds of silence that benefits abusers. What? Okay. All right. It is critical that we stand with our trans and LGBT plus neighbors. Their safety is all our safety. Okay. Before I even get into it, nobody's really talking about that. Nobody is really talking about that.
And conservatives use culture wars in order to distract and diffuse us from challenging institutions of power, right? And I want to talk about how the attacks on trans and LGBT people factor into this. The first time I was ever hit on by a grown man, I was about 13 or 14 years old. I still had braces in my teeth. And if you ask a lot of women about the first time that they had encountered something like that, they will often say 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. When I was in my...
Now, okay. That is very inappropriate. I want to say that. I do not condone that. As a grown man, there is no way in the world you should be hitting on or flirting with or making any type of flirtatious jokes to a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, or 12-year-old. You should not be doing that whatsoever. That is 100% inappropriate. I don't care how joking you try to make it seem. You shouldn't be making any type of sexual jokes or flirting or anything like that. That is inappropriate. Now, if that was said, though, about a member of the LGBT community, okay, or as our brother Torian would call the academy, if that was said about them, oh yeah, you have a lot of gay men who flirt with little boys. Oh my God, that's so transphobic. You're being trans. Now you can say that about straight men, and it's not appropriate for straight men to be, it's not appropriate for anybody, but it's not appropriate for straight men to be doing that. Okay, or straight people, because it's not just men, straight people to be doing that. But if you said, okay, well, we have to admit that gay and lesbians do that too, then they would say, oh my God, that's you're pushing a narrative that projects a harmful stereotype on the LGBT. So you can't the same thing she just said, even though it's right. If you said the same thing and you said the LGBT do that too, they would say that that's homophobic. All right. Mind you, too, this has absolutely nothing to do with what just happened with Audrey Hale. This has nothing to do with that. This is so in bad taste. This is in terrible taste right now. Okay.
My early 20s, and I worked as a waitress on an outdoor cafe. There was a man that would park on the side of the street, and we realized that he was pleasuring himself to the waitresses that were going back and forth on the sidewalk. I can't tell you how.
Now, she said that when she was in her early 20s, she would work at a cafe. Now, I'm just repeating. She would work at a cafe, and there was a dude, just creepy dude, who would pleasure himself, and you all know what that means. I don't have to describe that. Would pleasure himself to the women that were walking by. Now, my thing is this, and I'm going to use a word that you guys have never heard me use before, and I probably will never use again. Is that not heteronormative? Is that not heteronormative? How do you know? How does AOC know that the guy in the car wasn't bisexual? How are you just going to assume? Don't they say isn't that homophobic to assume somebody's sexuality? I thought that was homophobic to assume somebody's sexuality. So because the dude is in the car, touching himself, just, you don't know, that person might be queer or pan or bi. That person might be trans. That might have been a trans woman, man, whatever, something. I don't know. We don't know that. How could you just assume that person was straight? Now, if somebody assumed that somebody was gay doing something wrong, that's homophobic. I'm just calling out the double standards there. Okay.
Many stories I and almost every woman I know have about things like this. And when you actually look at who's committing this abuse, it's majority straight men. Many of these disgusting and insinuating attacks.
Now, I will say this. Shout out again to our brother Torian Rain, because he's been doing a lot of videos where he talks about a lot of these school teachers, these female school teachers, touching their, or actually, and I'm trying to use my words very carefully, they're inappropriately having relations with their children, their younger, the not their children, with their students, their young children students, their kid students. Okay, that stuff gets very swept under the rug. There was one story recently where a woman got pregnant by a teacher got pregnant by a 13-year-old. And I'm not here to deflect. I'm not here to justify any SA. You know what that means? I'm not here to justify that at all. Okay? But what I'm saying is, when this whole thing of only straight men do this type of stuff is incorrect. And why it's very important for us to understand this is because there is no form of violation from an adult, especially to a child, that is not incredibly damaging, destructive, and traumatic for a child. I don't care if it's a man who does it to a little boy or a little girl, or if it's a woman who does it to a little boy or a little girl. It's still going to forever damage that child. And we have a society today that you can say that if the man does it. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. You should. We should have a society that calls it out. Okay, men shouldn't be doing that at all. But that's the part that we're getting correct, where we call out the men who do that. That is the correct part. The incorrect part is that when the women do it, that gets completely swept under the rug, and the statistics are skewed to, okay, well, 98%. Do you honestly believe, let's just be honest, let's just really, really be honest, do you honestly believe that it's 98% of all SA is straight men? Does that mathematically make any sense? Does that make any sense? Or is it the fact that when other people do it who are not straight men, that gets underreported? This is why it's very important for us to talk about this type of situation, okay? Because when you let these people talk, these people lead society into a very dark path. These are the type of people, AOC is the type of person who will lead society in the path where they create Audrey Hale. This is the type of narrative and the type of thinking and the type of condoning and covering that she'll do for monsters like her, and that will incentivize another person because there's no accountability. Continuing though,
on trans and LGBT people are actually projections of what predatory, cisgender, and often straight men do when left alone in the presence of women, or sometimes horribly children. So instead of getting you to challenge the patriarchy, they're trying to get you to challenge the very gender expressiveness that challenges patriarchy.
Okay. This is the patriarchy. The patriarchy allows this to happen. Now, they keep saying the way she frames the situation, pretty much 100% of all violations come from straight men, from straight men. Pretty much all of them. Now, women do it too. Is that patriarchy when women do it? When members from the LGBT do it, do we have to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, which apparently Netflix is trying to make a whole like franchise based off of the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing? Apparently that's a thing now. But when Jeffrey Dahmer does that, and he's not the only one, when Jeffrey Dahmer does that, do we have to talk about Ed Buck? Do we have to bring these situations up when they violate people? Is that a part of the patriarchy? And I'm not here to defend what they call the patriarchy, because I don't even believe it is just white supremacy. That's really what it is. I'm not here to defend that whatsoever. I'm here to bring up the fact that when you allow people like this to be in Congress, okay, when you allow people like this to have a voice and enable things, this is what's really bad. This is what leads to the damage. Okay. we're going to get a little, if y'all have like a pen and a paper or whatever the case is, y'all might want to take that out now because we have more digging to get into.
Don't get it twisted, because a lot of people attacking drag are projecting. So we know
a lot of people are attacking drag or projecting. Now, let me take this off. Let me take this off. Okay. I'm going to explain to you guys what a bad faith argument is. A bad faith argument is an argument that somebody is making not because they believe that their argument or their stance is more correct than your argument or stance. Their argument is based off of the fact that they don't like that you just said what you said. It's not the fact that they feel that their argument is more logical, their argument makes more sense than what you're saying. It's the fact that they just don't like the fact that you said it. So they're using bad faith just to counter your argument for the sole sake of countering your argument. I'm going to give you an example. This might be extreme. That's like if somebody said, everybody knows the sun is big and the sun is hot. Sun is very big and the sun is very hot. Okay. Somebody might not like that for whatever reason. We're like, well, how do we know the sun is super hot? We don't know. Have you ever been to the sun? No, I haven't been to the sun, but I still know that the sun is hot. Well, if you haven't been there, then you don't really know for sure, though. That could just be a satellite. And that's a bad faith argument. And that's an extreme version, but I'm just giving you the basics of that is a bad faith argument. Everybody knows that the sun is hot. You know that, and you know your argument isn't really a standing argument. You know your argument isn't really logical or better than my argument or stance. You're just using that because you don't like either me personally, or you don't like the fact that I just said the truth. You don't like the truth that I spoke. So you're trying to counter that with a bunch of illogical arguments and illogical talking points for the sole sake of countering my argument. So when people talk about why are trans reading to kids, and now we're having situations where these trans have are on registries where they shouldn't be around kids at all, and they're doing stuff that's inappropriate around children. What is the purpose? What is the benefit of having a trans person read to a child? When you ask that, they counter that with a bad faith argument. I mean, well, some straight people are bad too. That's a deflection. Okay, that doesn't make sense. It is what does that have to do with anything? What is the benefit of having a trans person read to a child? Why are you having a grown man in a wig read to a child? What is that? Well, what is the benefit of having a man in a Spider-Man costume read to a kid? That's you know they know that argument does not make any sense to have these the projection of trans. No, is because we're seeing something within, and I'm not saying all 100% because you actually do have not trans drag. You actually do have some drag people who are saying that what they do should not be done around children. But for the ones who want to read to kids, they're making these bad faith arguments, saying that okay, well, you're it sounds like you're projecting. That's kind of what it sounds like you're doing. It's, well, straight men are bad too. Nobody said that all straight men are perfect. Nobody's ever said that. But the thing is, every time we call out something that is bad, you point a mirror back and say, well, straight men, you can't say nothing. That is a problem. These are problems. And we have to get to a point in time when we are not afraid to address the fact that, look, society, if we keep allowing stuff like this to happen, society is leading, especially when it comes to children, in a very dark path, is a very dark way. It's going to violate a lot of young children. Okay. I want to show you something else. Okay. Let me put this on now you guys know me. I've been doing this for at least a year, at least going on a year strong, right? Check this out. So you guys know how difficult it was for me to see this. Here's why you should put pronouns in your bio and email signatures. Y'all know me. I'm the one who coined the term pronoun people. I'm the one who coined that term. This came last year. Not last year, 2021. Okay. Which is the last couple years is really where you started to see that becoming a really, really big trend among non-trans people. That was a thing with trans people, but now within the last few years or so, it became a big thing with non-trans people. All right. Now, it's saying here, against the backdrop of a global pandemic, so because this was, during the time of C19, against the backdrop of a global pandemic and a massive economic crisis, it's likely that you have a ton on your plate. But as we celebrate Pride Month, I'm here to ask you to care about one more thing: putting your pronouns in your social media bio and email signatures. Now, when people say, because I'm going to tell you, and let me pause this real quick. I've been on this ever since they started doing that. Ever since they started doing the big pronouns thing, I've been calling that out. Okay. And I've been saying we should not allow society to get to that point. Before we get up, I think we had another super chat. Let me not forget that. Hold on. Because I don't want you to feel like I didn't see it. ACAB Devil, thank you for the $20 super chat again. He says, notice how they never mentioned the anti-black attacks by the white LGBTQ on black men in particular. Exactly. Ed Buck, Jeffrey Dahmer. They don't talk about that. Okay. They act like violence from one of their own is out of the ordinary. When you ask the black LGBT, they say it's rampant. Exactly, it is. Remember when Netflix had the Dahmer special? When Netflix had that, I think they had like a hashtag LGBT, or they put that in the LGBT section. They wanted them to take that out of the section. So when they do something bad, don't bring up the fact that he was LGBT. Don't bring up the fact that Dahmer was LGBT now. Don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. You bring up the good stuff we do. Now, when it comes to stuff we do violent against black people, which is why it's very important for the black people in the LGBT to get their damn heads straight, no pun intended with the word straight, but their damn sense together, okay? Because too many of them put their sexuality before they put their blackness, and it makes them confused and illogical. And thank you very much for the super chat again. Now, continuing, I wonder if you guys can see it. I try to make it to where you guys can, where we can both see it. But if you can't, it's cool, because I'm reading it to you. The purpose of revealing pronouns is to let others know how they can address you. She, her, he, they, them, or any combination of usage. Any combination are usually used to let people know that they are most comfortable with. This practice began when trans people started adding their pronouns they identify with to their profiles to avoid getting misgendered. Okay. However, this also made them an easy target for bigotry and transphobic attacks. A card. I don't know if this is a card. I think that's how it's pronounced. Created by a trans man, revealed that the community started asking more cisgender, and we're gonna get to the word cisgender in a minute too. So y'all stay with me. Okay? Cisgender people to put pronouns in their bios to be better allies and reduce the harassment they receive because their pronouns would no longer stand out. This is why I'm saying this, okay? Because let's just be honest, and I'm not mad. Because a lot of the ones I see doing it are like really young, and they're getting led in the wrong direction. Let's have a serious moment real quick. This is very harmful for society. Okay? And I'm not saying that if you're trans, you're harmful for society. That's not what I'm saying. Pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm saying that this narrative, because let's be honest, what is a trans person? The more we go along in society, the less clear what a trans person really is. It's a lot of confusion. It's a lot of delusion. It's a lot of people who need counseling, who need therapy, and who need help. If you go to a lot of the stories, and they're not going to let you know this on the mainstream, but if you go to a lot of stories, they will actually, like the trans people, the people who trans, and then the people who go back, right? They'll tell you that a lot, and not saying all, I don't want YouTube to feel no type of way, I'm not projecting, but I'm saying a lot of them had something traumatic happen to them in their childhood, and they did not properly heal from that. They did not properly cope from that. And they grew up with this very confused, illogical, delusional distortion on what sexuality is, on what being a man is, on what being a woman is. A lot of them did that. A lot of them, and this is their stories, not something I'm putting on to them, but you, and if I'm wrong, the comments are completely open. If I'm wrong, anybody can say, Afro Elite, I looked it up, and what you're saying is a lie, what you're saying is bigoted, what you're saying is not true. You guys feel free to do that if I'm wrong, but you guys can go look at a lot of the stories about the people who transitioned and then transitioned back to what they were originally. A lot of them will tell you that a lot of them were violated or seen something that confused them as children that they could not deal with, cope with reasonably. Okay, they did not heal from. A lot of the boys, when that happened, when that happened to, when certain things would happen to them that shouldn't happen to boys at all, they would think like, okay, well, maybe I'm really a girl on the inside. Maybe I really want to be a girl. It's not because I just feel like a girl. And the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people actually go through this and they're suffering deep down on the inside. Let me take everything off the screen and like really like vibe with you, like really like connect with you guys on this level. A lot of them are going through a lot of pain on the inside. And that's why I'm not trying to beat up on them individually. I am combating a system that enables that distortion. I'm combating a system in a society that is leading to the path where that stuff, where the harm of them and the harm that they do to other people becomes normalized. I'm combating that because I can see in the future of where that is going to lead in society in the long run. Okay, in order to fix a problem, and this is any problem, you have to be 100% honest with what the problem is and where the problem comes from. You're not doing, and a lot of people think that they're doing something good and they're being helpful to society or whatever the case is. A lot of people might think that way, but they have to understand they're not actually being helpful. They're actually being very harmful. If somebody is going through something, for instance, if I came out the blue and said my eye color is not brown, is blue. My eyes are blue. Okay. And I want everybody around me to say my eyes are blue too, because I feel that my eyes are blue. So everybody around me has to almost live in this fantasy that I am projecting and say that my eyes are blue. And if everybody around me does not acquiesce to the fantasy that I am projecting that my eyes are blue, I am going to get depressed and I might terminate my own life. Does that sound like something is wrong with society? Or does that sound like something would be wrong with me? Does that sound like society needs to change to fit into what my projection and my fantasy is what I want to be is? Or does that sound more like I, as an adult, need to come to grips with reality and understand that my eyes are brown, my eyes are not blue, and if I believe that my eyes are blue because I want that to be the case, then I might need help. It's more like they actually need help instead of needing to be enabled. Society is moving in a bad path because a lot of them have messed up, and I'm not like I don't want to strike or nothing. A lot of them have messed up past. Now, there's really two types from what I see. There's the type that has a messed up past and are confused and never coped with traumatic experiences that happened to them. And then there's the faction that are using that as like a little cheat code. And when I say that, I mean those are the adults, and they tend to be white males. Those are the adults who grow up and they were never really good in sports. What's that one swimmer's name? He's like 200 place when it comes to his swimming team as a male athlete, but when he's trans, then he's number one. Those are the ones who use trans as like a little cheat code to kind of get their way in society. So those are really two aspects of it. Okay, you have the very damaged people, and then you have the people trying to finesse transgenderism. Okay, those are really the two. All right. For the one, and society does it bad because society enables both of them. Society recognizes both of them as the very same thing. And that is both a normal thing where you feel like you could be born in the wrong body, as scientifically, and I'm just talking about the science aspect of it, as scientifically impossible that is scientifically impossible. Okay. This is why it's important for us not to enable that stuff. So when I see, this is why I get on the pronoun stuff, because I'm all like, what you guys are doing is you guys are enabling their delusion. You guys are trying to fix the world to fit what their delusion is. If I'm a girl because I want to be a girl, even now, nowadays, like I was saying earlier, trans has become, you don't even know what a trans is. You don't know what a trans is because when they ask, well, what is a woman? They can't even tell you what a woman is. If you can't tell somebody what a woman is, how can you tell somebody what a trans is? Let's like really think about that. Let's really like think, how does that make sense? We're moving in a society that's not making any sense. That don't make sense. And we have people who are trying to enable that type of nonsensical, illogical, and dangerous narrative and behavior. All right, we as a society, and I know it might seem like, oh, you're being transphobic or whatever, but like, let's logically think about this. And for the ones who might think that I'm I'm just doing this because I'm not doing this because I dislike anybody on an individual basis at all, or want harm on anybody in an individual basis at all. But this will lead to harm, just like how it did with Audrey Hale, or Hale, sorry. Let me get back to the article. Where was I? Okay, right here. Okay. This practice has started gaining so much traction that Instagram added a designated space in users' profile that allows people to share their pronouns. LinkedIn too has joined the bandwagon and now allows you to add your pronouns and display them next to your name. Many universities and organizations also ask people to add their pronouns to their email signatures, even on video conferences format like Zoom, and add their pronouns next to their name, essay, and identification. If you're wondering why you should take this step, here's the same reasons. Firstly, it normalizes, and see, that's the problem. Normalizing this stuff is the problem. You should not normalize dysfunction. You should not normalize this. This is not logical. Okay? We're at this stage where everything is so inclusive. You want illogical things to be inclusive with logical things. Some things do not need to be normalized. Some things need to stay the way it was. Biology, and let me take this. I know I'm gonna break again, but let me take this down again, right? Do you want to know why that section of that community has such a high self-deletion rate? It's not because they get name called. Everybody gets name called. Okay? Or that's not the main reason. The main reason why that happens is because they're battling with themselves internally and psychologically. They're trying to change themselves because they have not dealt, and this goes all the way back to what I was saying before. They have not dealt with the trauma that they experienced when they were younger. And I'm not making that up. Go look at the stories of the people who transition and then detransition. Those are real people with real stories. Go look those up. Okay? They have not properly dealt with that stuff. Okay? So that means that they, for pretty much their whole life, they've been battling the urge of I want to be a girl, but I can never be a girl. Or I want to be a boy, but I can never be a boy. There is nothing anybody can do, not a surgeon, not a doctor. There is nothing anybody can do to make someone who was born as a male be a female. You can have fake titties. You can have your private area rearranged, what they call gender affirming surgery. You can have that. You can take the hormone pills that block the natural hormones that the male has and projects a surplus of estrogen, because males naturally have estrogen like females have testosterone. It's just the amount difference. So you're going to take pills that suppress your testosterone, which is that's what gives you the muscle mass and the beards and the stuff like that. The masculine DNA part of you. You can try to suppress that. Okay. But the thing is that just on a brain level, the male brain is different from the female brain. Now, I'm not saying that the male brain is smarter or the female brain is smarter. Okay. The male brain is just different from the female brain. That means certain things trigger the male brain in a different way than it triggers the female brain. This is why when you look up studies, and if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, you guys can correct me. When you look up studies and you see little babies playing with little toys, and they put kids in a room, babies in a room with little toys, the boys will be more attracted to, even if they play with the dolls or whatever, or the houses or whatever, the boys will be more attracted to certain lights, certain sounds, certain things than the girls will, because the male brain fires off. There's like different parts of the brain that fires off at a time. The male brain fires off differently than the female brain. Now, it's important for you to know that does not make one brain better than the other brain. That's just what it is. Doctors can't even do anything to change that. They can't do anything to change that. They can't do anything to change your chromosomes. There is just a thing. No matter what you can do to yourself surgically, and then you always have to keep going back, you will never be what she can be. She does not need a surgery to put a womb and ovaries in her body. She does not need that. She does not need a surgery to give her a period. She does not need that. Okay? And a person who is born a male will never achieve what a natural woman will ever be. And they battle with that psychologically and internally, which causes them depression because they're trying to achieve a life, okay, that they will never, and they understand that they will never really be able to achieve. This is one of the things that causes them depression. People act like, oh, they get depressed because society won't accept them. No, they get depressed because they cannot accept themselves. And that is what leads them to terminating their life. That is what leads them to that. So this is dangerous, not even just for the population, the regular population. This is dangerous for their side of the society. And somebody needs to be honest about that. That is why we should not be normalizing stuff like this. Okay? Now, continuing. Yeah, the normalizes also. More importantly, trans people with their pronouns in their bios are less likely to be targeted if this practice becomes the norm and more people start putting it in practice. It also acts as a reminder not to assume people's gender based on any conventional factors. Now, here is the thing when they talk about gender. They say that gender and sex are not the same thing. Sex is let them tell it, sex is biological and gender is a social construct. Gender is psychological. Gender is psychological and sex is biological. So if gender, let me ask you, and you can ask this to them, if gender was completely a social construct and it doesn't really exist like that and it's psychological, why do they get surgery to change their sex? Why do they get surgery to be the opposite sex? Why do they go get hormones and all of that stuff, go get their body rearranged? Why do they do that to fit in with the opposite sex if gender and sex are not the same thing? Those are two illogical things. Both those things can't be the truth. Gender and sex can't be two completely different things. But yet, in order for you to be a transgender, you have to change your sex. That does not make any sense. And we as a society should not be condoning that. Right? Continuing. Additionally, it indicates that you're an inclusive ally who respects people's preference and will not misgender them. Trans and gender non-conforming people, whatever that means, because nobody really knows what a gender non-conforming individual is. If I ask, what does it mean? What is a gender? Gender is a social construct. That's all they'll tell you. Okay, what does a gender non-conforming person is? A person who does not believe they have a gender. Okay, well, what is a gender? They can't tell you that. Okay, and gender non-conforming people can better understand that you're a safe person who to interact with or can come out to if needed. Okay. Right? Due to the risk of discrimination, many trans and gender nonconforming people may not feel like opening up about their gender identity in public spaces like workplaces, but being misgendered can have a direct negative impact on their mental health and well-being. Now, let's go back to the blue eye analogy that I used. If people identify the fact that I have brown eyes instead of blue eyes, and I say that affects my mental health, the fact that people are not participating in my fantasy, am I the one who has the problem, or is it society the one who has the problem? It's me. I'm the one who needs help, not society. Mental health and well-being affecting their self-esteem and confidence. By making this small change, you're making an important move towards embracing gender diversity and creating an environment where everyone feels like displaying their authentic versions of themselves. So we pretty much read as much into that as needed. But that's the reason for the pronouns, and that's the reason why I have so much pushback when people are like, oh, let's use the pronouns. Let's use the pronouns. That's why I have so much pushback, because I see the danger in that. I see, first off, it's illogical. It don't make sense. It's stupid. It's dumb. Okay. I'm just being honest. That's my opinion. It's stupid. But people do stupid stuff all the time. I'm not the intelligence police. I'm not here to tell everybody they have to do what I believe is smart. It's not only not logical, it's harmful. It creates a society where you have people who are living in this dangerous delusion, and you are enabling their dangerous delusion. Okay. Now, I'm going to get to another part of the article. And this all goes back to Audrey Hale. Okay. This all goes back to the fact that society is not holding them accountable because society wants to hold up the fact that these are just so super oppressed people who just get attacked for no reason just because they identify with what they feel that they are. Okay. Okay. Whatever that means. Oh Lord. No, thank you. I do not want that. We're going to get to what does cishet mean? And this is why a lot of people do not like this. I know this broadcast has been kind of long, but you guys have been staying with me. Shout out to every single last person who's in here. Okay. The term cishet, that's how it's pronounced, refers to a gender identity as well as a sexual identity. Okay. This two-part identity means that the person is both cisgender and heterosexual. A cishet person identifies with the gender that they were assigned with at birth, and they choose romantic partners of the opposite sex. Okay. What does it mean to be a cisgender? To be a cisgender means that you identify with the gender that you were assigned with at birth. So now when they say cisgender, they're making it seem like gender and the biological sex has nothing to do with each other. And gender is gender is pronouns. Let them tell it. Gender is just pronouns. All right. And that has nothing to do with sex. But a trans person changes their sex to be transgender. Okay. That's what they're telling. I'm just letting you know what they're saying. Okay. You were assigned at birth. If you are a cisgender, which is often shortened in discussion to cis, chances are you have not experienced gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria is a real psychological disorder that society is acting like is not a true thing. Gender dysphoria is a real thing. Okay? That a lot of people have. And instead of saying you have gender dysphoria and you need to seek some help, they're saying you have gender dysphoria and I'm going to enable it. That is what is dangerous. That is why we should not be doing that. Where you feel aligned with the assigned gender. Okay, that's what they're saying. People who are gender non-conforming, transgender, or people who are marginalized gender identity, people who are another marginalized gender identity, whatever that means, often have much more complex journey in relation to their gender identity and face much more discrimination than cis people do. All right. What does it mean to be heterosexual? To be heterosexual means that you are attracted to a partner with you're attracted to and partner with members of the opposite sex. For example, if you identify as a woman, which means you're a woman, being heterosexual means that you partner with people who identify as man. Listen to how illogical that is. So they're saying if you identify as a woman, being heterosexual means you partner with someone who identifies as a man. But they just told you that you don't have to. Do you see this? Do you see the illogical fallacy in this? Do you see the fact that they're saying you do not have to be a biological woman to identify as a woman? You can biologically be a male who identifies as a woman. But if you identify as a woman and you're attracted to someone who identifies, not as biologically, a male, you're heterosexual. This stuff does not make sense. This stuff, I'm not going to read too much more into this. Okay. The word heterosexual is often shortened to hetero, or in the case that means, or in the cases of the word cishet to het. I've never heard nobody het. I've never heard nobody use that. It's also used simultaneously with the word straight. Just like being cis, many hetero people don't ever think about being heterosexual at all. This is also a privilege. People who are queer face more discrimination throughout their lives than people who are heterosexual do. So what is the difference between being cis and cishet? Not all cis people are cishet. See, they don't even make sense of what they're saying. They would, back here, when we go to this, cisgender or cishet, they were saying that's okay, being cis and het are not the same thing. Okay, let's find out what that means then. All right. So what is the difference between being cis and cishet? Not all cis people are cishet. Cis people are people who have sexual orientations that other than heterosexual, including gay, lesbian, bisexual, or asexual. Okay. So the history of gender and sexual identity. I'm going to read to the end of this paragraph. Actually, I'm going to skip down to here. Right here. Right? Because we're going to get into the cishet privilege, and then we're going to end this. Gender and sexuality are often conflated. This happens often by people who are cishet because they have their sexuality and a gender identity that is the majority. Okay? Cishet privilege. Along with being the majority, cishet people have societal privileges, which is not being subjugated to gender or sexuality based discrimination. That allows them to generally not have to think about their sexual orientation or gender identity. Okay. In reality, gender and sexuality are entirely different things. Okay. All right. As trans people often can consider themselves heterosexual. Huh? Trans people consider themselves heterosexual if they partner with someone of the opposite gender. Okay, but I thought heterosexual was not about gender. Heterosexual was about you being attracted to the. They're not even making sense with the things that they are saying themselves. Okay, I'm gonna read this whole thing. In reality, gender and sexuality are entirely two different things. A trans person might consider themselves heterosexual if they partner with people of the opposite gender. For example, you can be a minority in regards to either sexuality or gender orientation. Okay, get this off here. People. They just said that heterosexuality is you being attracted to the opposite sex, and sex and gender is different, and gender is an identity. But yet, the gender, I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, but if you change your gender, which is your identity, and you're attracted to somebody who is the opposite sex, but would technically be the same sex, you're heterosexual because your gender identity changes your sex, but your sex is not your gender. And it doesn't have anything to do. In the same, okay, I think I got it. So in the same article, they said your gender and your sex. I'm gonna pull it up again in case you guys think I'm just being confusing for no reason. Okay. In the same exact article, let me zoom it in. Let me make it bigger. Okay. Let me zoom this in. All right. Where did it go? Okay. Where were they talking about gender and all that stuff? So gender dysphoria and everything like that. Now, cisgender is someone who thinks about gender nonconform. I want to get to the part where they said that gender and sex are not the same. Heterosexual means that you are attracted to someone of the opposite sex. Okay? That is what they said earlier. You are attracted to somebody from the opposite sex. All right? That's what it means. Okay? Now, where also do they say that heterosexual people are not the same as there's a difference between heterosexual? Okay. Now, here it is. Gender and sexuality are often conflated and they are different. There's a difference between gender and sexuality. So your gender and your sex are not the same. Your gender and your sex are not the same. That's what they're saying. But they're also saying that if your gender is okay, they're saying if you okay. Do you guys see why we should stop enabling this type of behavior? I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping. Okay? Do you see why we have to stop enabling this type of behavior? This is bad. This is delusion. First off, I'm an adult. Can you imagine trying to explain this to a child, to a kid? I'm not even trying to be funny. I don't get this. I don't get this. They said one thing and they're saying something different. Your sex and your gender are two different things, but if your gender is this, your sex and your gender are two different things unless you want your gender to be your sex. But if you're trans and you want your gender to be your sex, then you can be heterosexual. You can be a heterosexual transgender who is sexually having same sex. But like, do you see how that does not make any sense? Do you see how that does not make any sense? Okay? That doesn't make any sense. And in society, we have to stop enabling this stuff because these type of things is what enables people like AOC to create this thing where all trans people are protected. If you say a trans person needs to seek help, which a lot of them do, just like the Audrey Hale woman, she needed to seek help. She needed to seek help a long damn time ago. But when you enable a society that says you have to bend reality and bend logic to fit what they believe, which is a fantasy, it is not real. Science does not back this up. Logic does not back this up. It is a fantasy. It is fake. It is artificial. When you enable a society that say you need to acquiesce to that, you enable people who have mental problems like that killer did. And now that they have mental problems, now you're not even saying, okay, can we have a true, real conversation about how delusional a lot of the people, I'm not saying all, but a lot of the people in that section of the community are, and how many of those people really do need help? Can we have that type of conversation now? They don't even want to have that type of conversation because they want to make it seem like you can't say that they have a problem. You can't say that they need help. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to brainwash you, and especially the little kids, into believing that the people who do not make sense is us. The people who do not make sense is us, because they tell you one thing one time and then they'll tell you something else another time. And both those things are opposite but very true, and that you have to believe in their fantasy. And these fantasies lead to a society where you cannot criticize people who have mental health and gender dysphoria, and they wind up becoming serial killers. This is the problem that we're heading into. This is why we cannot enable any of those pronoun bio stuff. We cannot enable any of that cis stuff. And shout out to the actual women who are pushing back against that, because a lot of women are saying that they feel very offended when they're being told they're cis and all that stuff, because a lot of that stuff is really an attack on womanhood, to be honest. A lot of women get offended by that, because you don't really see a lot of the trans women turning into men, trying to like replace the men. You don't really see a lot of the people who are born as a female transition into a male saying we're the same. You don't really see that to that extent. You see a lot of the people who are born as a male transition into a woman and saying that we're equally as women, as you are. And you see a lot of women being all like, no, I had to grow my entire life as a female. spend my entire life as a female, go through the natural body changes, the natural periods and cramps, and especially the women who have children, especially the women who gave birth. I had to go through all of that stuff naturally as a woman. Every single month I have to go, my body literally reminds me that I am biologically a woman. You don't get to become a 40-year-old and put a skirt on and say me and you are the same people. You don't get to do that. So to be honest, a lot of the cis stuff, that really offends the women. That offends the natural women most of the time, to be referred to as cis, because you're equating their womanhood and their femininity with what your fantasy. You're saying my fantasy is as equally as true as your reality. And a lot of women are pushing back against that. So shout out to that. A lot of women are actually saying that they feel very offended and disrespected by that, which they should, because it's an attack on women's womanhood. And I've said this before. Manhood to a man is a instinct and is a part of a man's humanity. That is the manhood, masculinity, and manhood to a man is a part of a man's humanity. Just like femininity in womanhood is to a woman. When you take a woman's womanhood away from her, when you take a female's womanhood away from her, you to a degree are stripping her away from her humanity. Just like when you take a male's manhood and masculinity away from him, you are really stripping him away from his humanity. This goes all the way back into buck breaking. This is why buck breaking was so bad, because they knew when you would buck break somebody publicly, you're really stripping them away from their humanity. You're really taking their humanity away from them. So even though it might seem like it's not a big deal, when you say all people have periods, when you say that, what you're really doing is you're stripping the femininity and the womanhood away from natural women. And to a degree, you're thingifying them. You're edifying, you're making it into, instead of a person, a feminine being and a feminine woman, you're making it into just a animal, into just a person. Okay. The reason why because people say that human beings are different from animals, and the key difference is because we have manhood and womanhood different from what they have. That allows us, that is the foundation, a man's masculinity and a man's manhood. People say it's not cookie cutter. It's not cookie cutter. All men are not the same. You can be a masculine man to one degree. For instance, Bobby Seale was a masculine man. Huey Newton was also a masculine man. That don't mean that they were the same. You don't have to be the same, but the foundation of masculinity is always there. It has to be there. That is the base of your manhood. That is the base of your humanity, and everything else, your character, is based off of that. The same way with women. They're Betty Shabazz and Harriet Tubman. They're both women. They're not the same, but their humanity is still based off of the fact that they are women. Sojourner Truth, in another example, they're not the same, but their humanity is still based off of their womanhood. Okay, when you strip a person's womanhood, which is really a sick thing that goes into chattel slavery, to strip a person's manhood and a person's womanhood away from them, you are thingifying them. You are simultaneously removing a person's humanity away from them, which is a criminal act to do. So this is why it is very dangerous that we cannot enable this type of delusion and this type of behavior. This is the type of stuff, the delusion in the world, that breeds the monsters that wind up killing people like that. And now they don't even want to talk about it. Okay. Somebody says they're going back to bed. Well, you know, we've been on here for 2 hours. I got some things I got to handle. I got some videos I got to edit. So leave you guys with this. Hopefully that I tried to break things down from a lot of different angles. I didn't just want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about what enables that type of stuff. That type of stuff is something that society enables and society needs to stop enabling. Okay, because it's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going to get off here. I gave my piece on the subject. Please make sure that you guys leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. Because it seems like we're going through like a shadow ban thing right now. That's to be expected. That's to be expected. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not going to matter. And that's not going to stop our 60K by the end of the month. It won't. That won't stop that. All right. So we still have a mission. Us as brothers and sisters, we have a mission to get this channel to 60+K by the end of the month. We have that mission. So we can do that. We're going to be shadow banned. It's fine. It's fine. As long as we as a family work together, make sure you guys are here, make sure everything is being shared and all that stuff, we're going to grow regardless. If they could have stopped us, they would have done it a long time ago. So they can't. That's the important part. Brothers and sisters, it's late. It's very late. We started 2 hours later than we normally do, and I'm going on 2 hours long, so I apologize. I'm going to stick on schedule. Today was just a crazy day. I'm going to stick on schedule, and I appreciate every single person who stuck by me and stuck with me. So I thank you very much. Thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. Let's see who we have in the chat room before we get off here. We have our sister, Darling Kiki. Thank you very much for being here with us each time. Thank you very much. Sister Harlem 9, thank you very much. Judah Queen, sister, thank you very much. Carla, thank you very much. Sema 27, thank you very much. Tangier, thank you very much. Sage, brother, thank you very much. Seek the Lord, thank you very much. Thank Rin 11B, thank you guys very much. And I hope you guys really did understand where I was coming from with this. With that being said, brothers and sisters, I bid you guys a good night. Be one salute to everyone in the chat room. You all have a good one.